Yeah, I think the noises were coming from my foil on that thing because I was a bit alarmed at first. I thought I thought the battery in my phone was crinkling and going to explode on me because, yeah, as you know, these batteries that they put in phones are actually wrapped in foil, and it was that kind of a sound I was hearing. Yeah, it kind of freaked me out, so I kind of ended the stream a bit prematurely because I actually want to cover something which I don't think anyone's really talked about, but um, we've many of us who are familiar with electronics know have possibly heard of a tunneling diode, right? You don't need me to go into all the details. If you don't know what a tunneling diode is, go and look it up on Wikipedia or something. But anyway, generally speaking, a tunneling diode, well, I'm not actually working with that. I'm working with a tunneling magnetic field. And so that's more descriptive of what my previous bubbleator, the concentric 6 magnet array, which was basically steel rods fed through the center of a concentric magnetic field, which extracted and oppressed a certain amount of the lens effect. So basically what that is you have these steel rods. Now I'll draw something. I'll draw something out, make it easier for you to understand what I'm talking about. So in the previous concentric 6 arrangement, there was a ring, which is basically one of these things, like, but the larger one, right, with a load of magnets going around it and alternated south north all the way around. And we were feeding the magnetic field going from the center core. So this is the outer ring, right? And I had these steel rods going through the middle of the concentric arrangement. These steel rods were conducting magnetic field from the rotors all the way through to the other side to the coil assembly, which was generating power. So this is our I'll just put some yeah, just to give you a rough idea. So we've got our rings there, and then we have our steel rods coming out on this side. Forgive my drawing, I'm really bad at drawing. And originally what I'd done was I had a ring on the end, so I'll just use 2 for representation. I had this steel ring, actually, it was on the other orientation, but we had this ring which caused the pivot effect, so that as the rotor was travelling through, we had a rotating field where the axis would change as it's passing. And so this was basically, these steel rods were acting like a tunnel diode or a tunnel effect, because the magnetic field was shoved straight through out the other side, all the way into my coils and the other side, right? So the main action upon the coil was when the magnet, which was passing, was directly overhead. When we had a really strong field travelling, it would travel straight down through these rods to the coil. And as the rotor passed by, because there was a certain point where the magnet was overhead of this, the equal opposite reaction was equal, because the magnets in the ring would subtract or create a balance effect, because some of the poles were attracted to this magnet. So some of the poles on these magnets were attracted to this magnet at this end, and the other poles were actually in repulsion mode, so they were being deflected by this magnet down the core on the other side. So we had a balanced field. We had a balanced situation where the equal opposite reaction at this end was virtually null, because we had attraction and subtraction at the same time, and a lot of the lens effect from the coil, which is over here, I'll just draw this large bobbin, whatever, as a rectangle. So a lot of the lensing effect from the coil which was travelling through here was snubbed by these stationary magnets, because these were on a stator, it weren't moving, whereas the rotor was moving. So the rotor didn't feel the effects directly of a lot of the lens effects, so it was effectively passing by without much resistance. So the tunnel idea is actually what I'm working on right now, but I'm working on a tunnel design that, instead of being in a horizontal plane, whereas we have one of these at the opposite end with the opposite rotor. So instead of having a rotor here and a rotor over here, right, whereas you have north and south, or vice versa, depending on the position of the rotor, instead of having north and south, instead what I'm working on is a system where we have a folded system, so that we can make use of the magnets, where this might be north and another magnet might be south over here. So I can use it on something like this, so that it's actually more condensed and more condensed form, so I don't have to mess about, because I had issues with that dual rotor system where it was wobblating, and that's why one of the early versions I actually nicknamed it the wobblator, because it used to wobble a lot, which was annoying. It was not a feature, it was a flaw really. So anyway, what I'm trying to do right now is work out a similar design to the original one, which I had at one point almost working quite well. Because the reason being, if I can work out a folded system where we have a U-shaped design, it will be much more easily adaptable and tunable once you get it right, than it would be if it was on a long stretch. Because the problem with that, it was cumbersome, it was very bulky, and when I had issues with it, it was a lot of work to change. Whereas having something like this, I don't have to change the length or the width of the rotors or anything, because everything's already in place at this end. All I have to do is modify this unit, this section, and basically have the rods, instead of in a straight line, I fold them around. So I'm working on something like that at the moment. So I wanted to give you a heads up on my idea of tunneling the magnetic field through the centre core of a concentric system. But obviously I'm not working on a round system anymore, I'm working on a rectangular system, so that this would be using flat coils instead of round coils. So I'm working on a width system where I can work on a design that will fit in here, and then at some point expand it to work on, scale it up basically, to work it on my much larger anti-drag system, which is that one there, which I have had quite a bit of success with in a way, but it still drags, it still slows down when you put a substantial load on it. So I want to work on a system which I can adapt more easily to work on that system and on this system, whereas the other design, which was that big thing down there, which is in a sad state right now because I took all the magnets out of it. So this thing's been dismantled. I don't know if I can get it out. I'm hooked up on something. Right. So remember this. This is the one that we're showing you in the earlier live streams. It's been, I dismantled it. I took all the magnets out, so there's no magnets in here right now. It's been stripped for parts, basically. So that thing is still there. I don't want to mess about with that right now because it's, as I say, it was very cumbersome. So anyway, that's what I'm working on, is the tunnelling magnetic field through the centre core of a concentric arrangement. Thanks for watching for now. Bye.